Today we're going to talk about dividing fractions. So dividing fractions is very similar to multiplying, just kind of with one extra step. So one important vocabulary term that you need to know for this is reciprocal. So reciprocals are two numbers that have a product, so that's the answer to a multiplication problem, of 1. So for example, 4/5 and 5/5, or sorry, 4/5 and 5/4 are reciprocals. If we multiplied those, 4 times 5 is 20, 5 times 4 is 20, that equals 1/1, or 1, right? So what you'll notice too is that they're just kind of flipped around. The 4 and the 5 flip. What's on top goes to the bottom, what's on the bottom goes to the top. So if we're looking at this, what is the reciprocal of these three? So 2/5, that's easy, we just flip it over. 5 goes on top, 2 goes on the bottom. With mixed numbers, so we've got 2 and 1/6. A lot of times people just want to say, oh, I'm just going to flip the 6 and the 1. Well, you can't do that. We need to make this into an improper fraction first. So 2 times 6 is 12, plus 1 is 13/6. Now we can flip this. The 13 is going to flip to the bottom. The 6 is going to flip to the top. Okay, for this one, the whole number, well, right now it's not written as a fraction, so we can't flip it around. So before I do that, I need to write it as a fraction, 7/1. Now I can flip it to 1/7. So let's look at the steps. The first step that we have to do when we're dividing, just like multiplying, is we have to convert mixed numbers to an improper fraction. So you have to do that first. And then the part that is different is this step 2. So we have to rewrite the problem. We say we keep it, switch it, flip it. We keep the first number the same, switch the operation from division to multiplication, and then flip the second number to its reciprocal. So keep it, switch it, flip it. Keep the first number, switch the operation, flip the second number. So I want you to highlight both of these because this is the most important part and the part that a lot of people forget. After that, we're simplifying. Again, you need your factor chart for that. Then multiply the numerators, then multiply the denominators. So let's look at some examples. All right, so problem number 1, dividing the following fractions. We've got 21/25 divided by 6/15. That's not a 15, 15. So what I want you doing so that you don't forget and you don't make this mistake is we're going to write above this K for keep it, S for switch it, F for flip it. So they're already as fractions. We don't need to convert anything, but we're going to keep the first number, switch the operation, flip the second number. So keep the first number as 21/25, switch it from division to multiplication, flip it from 6/15 to 15/6. Now I'm going to use my highlighters, and I'm going to highlight my 2 diagonals. So this first diagonal here and our second diagonal here. So I'm looking at these diagonals, I'm figuring out what they both divide by using my factor chart, okay? So if we look at 21 and 6, the biggest number that they both divide by is 3. So I'm going to show I'm dividing the 21 by 3, and I'm dividing the 6 by 3. I'm going to rewrite my fraction below. So 21 divided by 3 is 7. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Now I'm looking at the other diagonal, 25 and 15. So I'm looking at my chart. 25 and 15, the biggest number they both divide by is 5. So I'm going to show I'm dividing the 15 by 5. I'm dividing the 25 by 5. 25 divided by 5 is 5. 15 divided by 5 is 3. So now that I've simplified, now I can multiply across. 7 times 3 is 21. 5 times 2 is 10. So you could turn this into a mixed number if you want to. We will accept it as the improper fraction, though. All right, number 2. So we did a fraction divided by a fraction. Now we're going to do a fraction divided by a whole number. So a lot of people mix these ones up, so be careful with it, okay? So right now it kind of looks like we don't have any mixed numbers, which this is a whole number here, but we still need to rewrite these as improper fractions because the 18 right now is not written as a fraction, and that's where a lot of people make mistakes. So I'm writing on here that we are keeping, or the 4/7 is already as a fraction, but the 18 isn't. So I'm going to write that as 18 over 1. Now I'm going to write my KSF. Keep it, switch it, flip it. So I'm keeping the first fraction of 4/7, switching it from division to multiplication, flipping it from 18 over 1 to 1 over 18. Next step is to look at our two diagonals. So I'm going to highlight one diagonal with one color, highlight the other diagonal with another color. Then I'm looking at my factor chart. So let's look at our blue diagonals here. 7 and 1. Well, 1 only divides by 1, so the only number they both divide by is 1. I'm still going to write out here that I'm dividing by 1 so I can get in the habit of doing it the right way. Reset up my blank fraction. So 7 divided by 1 is 7. 1 divided by 1 is 1. Then we look at 4 and 18. The biggest number that 4 and 18 divide by is 2. So I'm going to show that I'm dividing 4 by 2. I'm dividing 18 by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 18 divided by 2 is 9. Now that we've simplified, we can multiply across. 2 times 1 is 2. 7 times 9 is 63. So we did a fraction and a fraction and a whole number. Let's look at some mixed numbers times mixed numbers. So for number 3, the problem we're going to do is 1 and 1/12 divided by 1 and 6/20. So first step is we are going to rewrite these as improper fractions. 1 times 12 is 12, plus 1 is 13 over 12. Divided by 1 times 20 is 20, plus 1 is 6, so 26 over 20. So that was the first step. We rewrote them as improper fractions. Now we keep it, switch it, flip it. So I'm going to write on here, keep it, switch it, flip it. Keep the first number, 13 over 12. Switch it from division to multiplication. Flip it from 26 over 20 to 20 over 26. Now we do our highlighting to see what needs to be simplified. So highlight one of the diagonals in one color, the other diagonal in another color. Using my factor chart, so let's look at 12 and 20. So 12 and 20, the biggest number, oopsies, that 12 and 20 both divide by is 4. So I'm going to show that I'm dividing 12 by 4 and 20 by 4. I'm going to set up my new blank fraction. So 12 divided by 4 is on the bottom, that equals 3. 20 divided by 4 goes on the top right, that equals 5. Now I'm going to look at 13 and 26. You might be like, well, 13's prime, it won't divide by anything. Well, that's true, it only divides by 13 and 1, but if you look at 26, 26 also divides by 13. So the biggest number they both divide by is 13. So on the top left, 13 divided by 13 is 1. Match it up in our blank fraction. On the bottom right, 26 divided by 13 is 2. Now we can multiply across. 1 times 5 is 5. 3 times 2 is 6. One more and then the you try. So number 4, we're just going to practice another mixed number since those ones take a little bit more steps. So 7 and 7/9 divided by 5 and 4/9. Step 1, make them improper. 7 times 9 is 63, plus 7 is 70/9, divided by 5 times 9 is 45, plus 4 is 49/9. Now we can move these around. Keep it, switch it, flip it. Keep the first number of 70/9. Switch it from division to multiplication. Flip it from 9/40. From 49/9 to 9/49. Now I'm going to highlight my diagonals to see what I can simplify by. Okay, I'm going to use my factor chart. So if we look at 9 and 9, well, they are the exact same number. So what's the biggest number that 9 divides by? That's 9. So I'm dividing both of these by 9. I'm going to set up my blank fraction. So at the bottom right, bottom left, 9 divided by 9 is 1. On the top right, 9 divided by 9 is 1. They cancel each other out to just 1. Now I'm going to look at 70 and 49. So if I look at those, 49 divides by 1, 7, and 49. 70, does it divide by any of those? Yes, it divides by 7. Their greatest common factor is 7. So I'm dividing the top, 70 divided by 7, which equals 10. The bottom right, 49 divided by 7 equals 7. I'm going to multiply across. 10 times 1 is 10. 1 times 7 is 7. If you want to make them mixed numbers, you can. If not, you can leave them as improper fractions. And on to the U-try. For the U-try, we'd like you to do 6 and 7/8 divided by 4 and 1/6.